Today's webinar, Breaking into Social Media Advertising, is presented by Amanda Pollard and Nicole Benzer. Nicole is the Director of Digital Marketing at Tell Your Story, collaborating with clients and agency partners to define marketing goals and strategies and manage, execute, and measure according to ongoing lead generation programs for clients in a variety of B2B industries. Amanda Pollard is content and social strategies, experienced in the development and execution of strategic, award-winning public relations and social media programs. With that, I'll turn it over to our speakers.
Thanks, Kayla, and thanks to everyone who could join us today. I'm Nicole Benzer, the Director of Digital Marketing here at Tell Your Story. I've been with the agency for about 3 years now, and during that time have really had the opportunity to see the growth of social advertising and also be a part of its adoption by many of our clients. And joining me today is my colleague, Amanda Pollard, who oversees content and social strategy for many of our clients.
Hi everyone, this is Amanda Pollard, and just to give you a little bit of background, we've been working with One North for a few years now on a range of marketing initiatives from public relations to social media and events. And in October, actually, we entered a formal partnership. So we are now One North Strategic Content Marketing Partner. And if you want to learn more about the partnership, you can go on onenorth.com.
Great. So today we'll be diving into how you can start utilizing social advertising for your organization. So we'll start by taking a look at the current social media landscape, which we're all probably pretty familiar with at this point, but also really looking at social's role in content marketing and the growing importance of those approaches. And then we'll be taking a dive into the step-by-step process of all the components that go into developing your social campaign. And also with that, creating those valuable, getting down to the insights that will help you continuously improve upon your campaigns. So leaving the webinar, you'll have the knowledge to start planning for your first social campaign, or if you're already doing some sort of advertising, hopefully you'll be able to take your knowledge to the next level. And this is really why we're all here today. We know that billions of people around the world are living and sharing their lives through social media. It's really embedded in everyday modern life. So does this scenario look familiar to anybody? Probably some of you. And we're going to take a little informal survey, so please share your responses in the chat window and don't be shy. We're going to ask a couple questions. Who checks Facebook or another social channel before leaving the house in the morning? Mel, obviously. Michael, kind of a given. Yeah, Kimberly does. Yeah, Michael, there you go. So another question for you, who checks a social channel or their phone in general before getting out of bed to start their day? So be honest, how many of you are laying there scrolling through your feeds before you get up?
I'm going to see this one.
Sometimes, yep. Vera, great. Yeah, so I think it's pretty safe to say that we're definitely not alone in this. 80% of 18 to 44-year-olds check their phones within 15 minutes of waking up. So if you have heard of nomophobia, this is a real thing. We are literally addicted to our phones. And if you're not familiar with the term nomophobia, this is the stress or anxiety caused by being out of mobile contact. Maybe you left your phone at home for the day, or maybe you just simply don't have service. But this is a real stress that people experience due to our always-on mentality. Where does that leave us as B2B marketers? Well, regardless of industry, we know that the key audiences we're trying to reach are on social, and they're not only on social, but they're really active. So they're checking their feeds multiple times per day, at least 14 times on average. So we know this. This isn't news for marketers, especially B2B marketers. We don't question the need to have social for business. You know, it's widely recognized as a valuable digital touch point, and one that's particularly valuable for B2B, given how content-rich the industry inherently is. And over the past few years, we've seen organizations make the shift to content marketing because delivering the right content at the right time to the right audience is extremely critical to marketing success. Some of you may recognize this gentleman here. This is Gary Vaynerchuk, or Gary V, as he's referred to in the social world. So he's an entrepreneur, a businessman, an overall, internet personality, and he's really considered one of the first advocates for content marketing. If you haven't checked out his blog, it's a great resource for content marketing tips and trends, but be wary if you have sensitive ears, because he can definitely be a bit abrasive at times. But although a large part of the B2B industry continues to struggle to put effective content marketing plans in place, we know content is king, and a majority of us are planning on ramping up content creation in the next year. So about 88% of B2B marketers are planning to create more content than the year before. So I'm going to use have you guys respond to another quick survey in the chat window. What do you think is the #1 content marketing tactic for these marketers that are looking to create more content? Do you think it's case studies, blogging, videos, social media? What's your opinion? All right, so we have e-blast, Facebook is a big one. We're seeing social media, case studies. Great. Well, for those of you who guessed social media, you're definitely right. About 93% of B2B marketers cite using social media as their #1 tactic and plan to do more social media, planning to create more social media content in the next year. And yet, the same study of these marketers shows that 57% of them are still using other paid tactics that aren't social. So more traditional tactics like print, offline promotions, and even though only 31 of these people think that those tactics are effective. So what does this mean? This really means that we aren't putting our money where our content is. We're spending a lot of time and a lot of resources to achieve lackluster results with other paid tactics, and we're really missing opportunities to use social advertising to amplify all this great content that we're creating. So in addition to the increase in content creation that we just talked about, another reason social advertising should be added to your marketing mix is that the organic reach of brand content is gradually declining, and actually many experts think that this number will be reaching 0 in the near future. So as a reminder, organic reach is how many people that you're able to reach for free versus how many people that you have to pay to reach. And what this means is that brands and organizations really can't rely on organic reach to get their content to their audiences. It's no longer enough just to have a profile on Facebook or have a Twitter, actually expect people to see all the great content that you're sharing. You guys have probably seen this in your personal feeds, but you typically see posts from the people that you interact with the most. You don't see posts from all of your friends. And this is intentional. This is, to maintain the integrity of the news feed. But the same goes for organic content sharing from brands as well. And here's a chart that just gives a little more color to what's going on behind the scenes. So you can see that Facebook's decline in organic reach is charted against its stock price among the same period. And this chart's a little bit old, so we think that this 5-6% organic reach is much lower than that now. But you can see the trend is clear. Organic reach is declining, Facebook stock prices are going up. And at the end of the day, this really means that there's no more free rides, and brands are increasingly relying on social advertising to really communicate with and create dialogue with their key audiences. And social advertising now accounts for nearly 22% of all digital ad spending, and it's nearing the $17 billion mark projected for 2017. Here's a quick look at a brand campaign that had organic components and paid components. And Castrol Moto is the motorcycle division of Castrol, so it's a global consumer brand, and you can see that its organic results are already pretty substantial. But with the paid, it's even more impactful, and at the end of the day, it really not only increases these numbers, so, gaining audiences, gaining engagement, but really the ability to attract more qualified fans and more quality engagements due to the rich targeting features across all of these ad platforms. And the ad platforms have really accelerated the adoption because they essentially have removed the middleman from the ad buying process. So self-service platforms on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, they give marketers the ability to place their own ads, and they're very simple and straightforward to use. So it's made it pretty easy for just about any marketer to hop in there and start creating their own campaigns. So at this point, we have a few things that are impacting the social ad space. We have the simplicity of the self-service models, we have the decline in organic reach, and the increase in content sharing. So this combination has created a very competitive landscape, and all businesses, large and small, are really vying for those consumer eyeballs. And this means that at the end of the day, marketers must understand the impact that social has on the bottom line and on those business outcomes. And essentially, to play in the game, you need to have a strategic plan. And this plan is very multifaceted, but it really starts at the top with identifying those overarching business goals and objectives. So taking a look at the big picture, what are your desired business outcomes? This could be across all departments, not just marketing, really taking a look at the higher level things in play. That you would have a documented content marketing strategy that should help define those specific goals and the right tactics associated with those social ad goals. And having a marketing communications or editorial calendar in place will even help you further define what those objectives are and identifying any programs or campaigns you might have in the works that you could leverage for a social ad program. And then lastly, taking a look at the content that you have available, just an informal content audit to determine what's already at your disposal and what else you can create. So it could be, your blogs, your case studies, your guest posts, any media placements for PR activity, and there's a lot of other types of content now that might fit your stated objective. So now we're going to move into the steps into actually building your campaign. And here's a quick look at what we call the path to success. So quickly running through each of these steps, at the top, of course, we have defining your goals and objectives, and then looking at those key metrics and reporting tools that you're able to use to measure against success. And then you're going to be looking at researching audiences across each platform and really knowing where your audience base is across the channels. Once you know your audiences and how you're going to measure, you're going to look at allocating your budget and how you want to spend your dollars on each channel, and then moving into securing the assets that you need for launch so you're able to execute efficiently and seamlessly. And of course, monitoring and optimization is a crucial part of the path, and we'll tell you how to do this continuously. And lastly, reporting and improving, so actually being able to get those insights from your reports and finally landing on rinse and repeat. So this is the successful cycle that we'll be taking you through. So taking a look at your goals and objectives, this is really considering what you want your ad to accomplish. And with any other marketing initiative, this is the most important and fundamental step that will really help you set the course for your campaign and keep you focused throughout the entire duration. And some common objectives for the B2B audiences include lead gen and sales. So about 85% of B2B marketers say that that's the most important content marketing goal that they have for their organization. Some other ones include increasing brand awareness and driving purchase consideration for your product or service. And as we mentioned, each platform is really structured to make it as simple as possible for anyone to build a campaign. So here's a quick look at Facebook and Twitter dashboards, and you can see they prompt you to choose an objective based on your goal. So Perhaps you want to build your fan base by promoting your page, or maybe you want to drive traffic to your website to increase form submissions or downloads. So these dashboards will really help you walk through the steps needed depending on your objective. And they also will help you choose too if you are unsure. And here's a quick look at all of the, not all of them, but the most common types of ad formats across Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. So there's a lot of options and a lot of flexibility. Facebook boosted posts, for example, are a great way to increase your content reach and the engagement on the posts that you're sharing on your page. Twitter cards allow you to attach photos or other media to your tweets, and not only does this help increase engagement, but it also helps marketers control their advertising message. The more and more content gets shared, the cards make sure that your ad stays consistent with the messaging that you want your audience to see. And then LinkedIn sponsored updates are very similar to a Facebook boosted post. So when you're looking to increase the reach and engagement, getting more eyeballs on your content, those are a popular format as well. So now we're going to look into identifying your key metrics and reporting tools. And with that, I'll be handing it over to Amanda to walk you through the rest of the process.
Thank you, Nicole. Okay, so after you've set your goals, now it's time to determine how you're going to measure success. And I already saw a question come in on this. Now here's your answer. So as marketers, we're swimming in data. So really the key is determining the right KPIs or key performance indicators instead of all the KPIs. And there are two types of metrics that you can look at. There's vanity metrics, such as followers, impressions, and engagement. And these stats look good on paper, but they don't necessarily influence your bottom line. For example, a company's social posts might receive thousands of engagements and brand impressions, but if you can't tie those back to concrete metrics, it becomes difficult to prove the effectiveness of a social program. Actionable metrics, on the other hand, are stats that you can tie back to positive business outcomes. So these are things like form submissions, PDF downloads, visits to landing pages, and even sales if you have the right tools in place. And this is where we get into attribution. So this is the ability to pinpoint where your website traffic, your conversions, and your revenue are coming from. And while this can be challenging if you don't have the right tools in place, it's definitely attainable for everyone at some level. So you want to be sure that you can effectively measure these KPIs by taking inventory of the tools at your disposal and seeing how they all talk to each other. So you might have the most advanced, innovative software out there, but the real magic happens when it's all integrated. Now, one example of a way that you can use attribution is using UTM parameters and the Google URL Builder. So this really takes referral traffic reporting to the next level, and you can get deeper insights on where your traffic's coming from. You can create unique tracking links for every piece of content on your site. And it's not only useful for social advertising, but you can and should use it for email newsletters, social posts, and more. So here's an example of one that we built for One North. This was a blog post from John Simpson on the self-directed buyer. So as you can see in the link, there are three categories that you need to fill in for each link. The first one is source. In this instance, it's social. The next one is medium. In this instance, it was a LinkedIn post. And then campaign, which is just like your campaign name, and it was your self-directed buyer. And we've included links to the URL Builder in the resources section at the end of the presentation, so you can check it out there. So now the next step in the process is identifying your audience base so that you can effectively target your ads. And hopefully you already have a firm understanding of your buyer personas, and that'll help you target effectively and reduce ad waste. This is actually one of the biggest problems B2B marketers face, with 96% saying that they felt their digital advertising reaches a significant number of people outside their intended target. And when researching your audiences, keep in mind that every channel lends itself to a unique consumer mindset. So this is all about context. Consumers go to different channels to find different types of information, and they're in different mindsets when doing so. LinkedIn, for example, they're in a professional mindset, so they see more industry-focused, company news, educational content. Here's an example of one for One North at the Legal Marketing Association. So we're talking to an industry audience about a conference that they're at. Twitter, on the other hand, we have breaking news, trends, conversations, and events. So on the day we pulled this together, the things that were trending were Tax Day, Kobe Bryant, and the Dem debate. And lastly, Facebook, it's more lighthearted. You have more images, videos, and you really have the ability to have some more fun. Now, it's not all about cat videos, but the key here is to know that your tone should be different and you should adhere to the lingo of each channel. So now we're going to get into the targeting capabilities of each channel. Here's a look at LinkedIn. As you can see, it allows you to get very granular with professional data, such as company size, industry, job title, fields of study. And once you begin researching and plugging in the criteria, each of the channels will tell you how many people meet that audience, and so you can land on a number that isn't too specific or too broad. And it'll also provide you with the estimated cost to reach that audience. So it's really powerful once you get in there and start working. Now, Facebook, the targeting capabilities are incredible. Facebook actually knows all. They've collected the largest amount of data pertaining to human behavior in history, which is a little creepy, but we can use it to our advantage. There are basic options like age, location, and interest to very specific things like income, political affiliations, and relationship status. Now, for B2B, we tend to focus more on things like interest and company. For Twitter, we have more unique targeting. The most popular way that we target on Twitter is by username, but you also have options like hashtags, events, and tailored audiences, which means that you can target people based on visitors to your website or lists pulled from your database. So how do you determine which channel is right for your campaign? Well, in addition to looking at your content and the best context for your ads, here are just a few things that you can keep in mind for each channel. So for Facebook, we have the most robust targeting capabilities. It's also typically the lowest cost of the social mediums, which is nice. But one drawback here is the difficult to track the quality of your users. Facebook has an estimated 170 million fake users, and you do run the risk of having those people engage with your brand. For Twitter, we have the unique capabilities with keywords, hashtags, user handles, and more. It's a cost-effective option, generally more than Facebook, but less than LinkedIn. And we have custom audience targeting as we do on Facebook. For LinkedIn, we have the granular targeting to a high-quality audience. You don't really run into the risk of having fake accounts like you might on Facebook or Twitter. But it's highly competitive, and it's the most expensive of the three. It also has limited geo-targeting capabilities, so you can really only target to major markets, whereas with the other two, you can target by zip code and smaller markets. So now we're going to take a look at allocating your budget on each channel. So there are several different ways that you can allocate your budget, but it all goes back to the numbers that you care about. What are your goals and your objectives? So if brand awareness and impressions are important to you, then you might want to use a cost per 1,000 impressions, or CPM. That might make sense. Often for B2B, we see either a cost per click or a cost per action as the most effective for driving clicks and actions on your site. Just remember that your budget is fluid, so you should constantly be testing and optimizing your ad dollars. You can quickly shift dollars and ads towards the things that are performing best and shift them away from things that aren't doing well. Now, the final step before you're ready to take your ads live is securing the assets that you'll need. So for each channel, you'll need specific images, sizes, and copy character counts, and each has their own nuances. So Facebook, for example, you can't use an image that contains more than 20% text. For Twitter, you want to use a video, it has to be 30 seconds or less, so you'll need to trim accordingly. And we've included links to the image sizes and character counts, and those are in the resources section at the end of the presentation. So with all your assets secured, you can take your ads live. And once those are live, comes perhaps the most important aspect of your campaign, which is going to be monitoring and optimizing. So as with any social media effort, listening and engaging with your audience is a crucial part of running a successful campaign. So set it and forget it does not apply. Monitoring your results and optimizing your ads is a weekly, if not daily task. Now all of these things, images, ad copy, calls to action, landing pages, and targeting criteria, they all influence your campaign performance, and they can all be changed and tweaked during your campaign. You also want to avoid ad fatigue, which is when your target audience has shown your ad too many times and your click-through rate drops. And you really just have to test this to see when this occurs, as it varies widely by the size of your audience and other factors. So each of the platforms has its own native reporting dashboard, but you might want to consider using a third-party tool to help make even more out of your investment. So there's a lot of software out there from Sprout Social, Hootsuite, Radian6. They all have unique features. But what you want to ask yourself when you're considering third-party software is, how big is your company? Are you going to need collaboration amongst many members? How much does it cost? Free trials? Do you want or need competitive listening capabilities? And at the end of the day, what level of analysis does it offer compared to what you need for your company? Now, once your ads have been live for a while, it's time to report on the results. So here's an example of the report your boss or your stakeholders will love. We think this report should first state your campaign objectives, second, show the progress of your campaign in meeting those objectives according to your KPIs, and third, it'll outline what your insights and opportunities are. What worked, what didn't, and what changes will you make moving forward. A few other tips are to keep it simple, so don't overwhelm with too many charts, and be sure to track your metrics month over month in a spreadsheet. Finally, you can take all of those insights and apply them to your next campaign. Rinse and repeat. Now, doing this continuously over time will ensure that your campaigns are set up for success. So in review, don't begin advertising without your stated goals and objectives. Do your homework, make sure you know your buyer personas, your KPIs, and know what success looks like before even launching a campaign. Test, modify, and improve. This really can't be overstated. Break down its attribution barriers. Use all the tools at your disposal or implement new ones like the Google URL Builder that we discussed. And at the end of the day, remember that it's still all about content and context. So the ball rolls. A few things that you can do. You can propose a pilot test on your strongest, most engaged channel. Follow the steps that we've outlined here to help you create an effective campaign. And at the end of the day, we hope you have fun and are very successful. So with that, I will turn it over to Kayla for some Q&A.
Great, so just a reminder, if you have a question, you can submit it using the chat function located either in the lower right-hand corner of your screen or within the green drop-down bar at the top of your screen. We're going to take just a minute here to select the questions we've received, and we'll be right back to start the Q&A session.
All right, so our first question, is there a danger in deploying a campaign across too many channels?
You know, it really comes down to, again, going back to those stated goals and objectives that you identify at the very beginning of your campaign. So really knowing where your audiences are across each channel will help you know which channels you should be on.
Yeah, and I think even if you started on too many channels, you can look at your insights, look at the reporting, and you can quickly, scale to each. And I think, it's great to do a test on each and see really where you're getting the most value.
Great. Our next question, do you have any strategies for convincing stakeholders to invest more in social for my team?
Yeah, I think, the results speak for themselves. So if you're able to attribute where your social ads are really making an impact, improve and demonstrate the effectiveness, that is really self-serving and can be a testament to replicating the campaign across other channels.
Yeah. Awesome. Just one more question here. I think we'll let you go a little bit early. I know it's different for each industry, but what is a typical budget for ad spend?
I would say it definitely varies depending on the size of your audience, how many campaigns you have going, but probably a minimum I would say is about $500 for a campaign, and that can obviously scale upwards of $10,000 or more, but it really varies on your audience. So.
Great. And we actually just got a few more questions in, so we're going to just take a few seconds to collect those, and we'll be right back to continue a Q&A session, so stay on the line. All right, so one question, are social users becoming less resistant to marketing messages? Is that messaging still seen as authentic if it is an obviously commercial orientation?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, and the way that we view it is that if you're considering your audiences on each channel and going back to, content and context being even more important, your ads should feel native to those platforms, and your audience shouldn't feel like they are being advertised to. So that's where the most effective advertising, comes into play, is when you're really matching the tone and context of each channel for your audiences.
Great, and then one more here. How do you feel about Instagram as a channel?
Yeah, so Instagram is a great channel, but you need to consider the type of content that you have available to share. So obviously it's very, very image-driven, very video-driven. So you need to make sure you have the content to support your presence on that channel, first and foremost. And then you also have to do your research and make sure that, your audience is on that channel. And if those things make sense, then Instagram may make sense for you.
Great. So that actually wraps up the Q&A session. Thanks for all the questions. If we weren't able to get to your question, or if you have any additional questions about anything mentioned in today's webinar, feel free to contact marketing@onenorth.com. And also, be sure to register for next month's webinar, Building and Managing a Strong Editorial Calendar. One North's Ryan Scholes and Amy Gorkowski will show you how to create an editorial calendar that enhances your content marketing strategy, just as Nicole and Amanda touched on today. Thanks, everyone, for joining, and have a great rest of your day.